KY3 News starts now.
Well, you sure won't need a shovel, but some of you could see some flurries in just a few hours. I'm Lisa Rhodes.
I'm Ethan Voorhees in for Steve. Futurecast radar shows a brief period when a little snow could fall, and that's what we're going to begin this newscast talking about. Chief Meteorologist Ron Hurst is in the First Alert Center with our first forecast.
Yeah, thanks, guys. And already on the radar, we're starting to see a little activity. I think this is more in the lines of what we call Virgo, which means it's snowing or raining way up high, but it's evaporating before it hits the ground. I think as we go through the night, though, we will eventually see that snow materialize, and a few of us will see some snow. Most of that will occur after midnight tonight. So let's get a look at Futurecast. We'll kind of slow down what you guys had behind you in the monitors there. By 11 p.m., we may be seeing some snow in a couple of different spots, one north of Highway 60 and the other one along and north of Highway 54. That becomes a little more widespread at some point after midnight. In fact, most of us are going to have the snow sometime between midnight and about 5 o'clock in the morning. Here we are at 3 o'clock in the morning, and it may be stretched out along Highway 60. This is all going to be very light snow. By the time we get to 6 and 7 o'clock in the morning, it should be over with as the lifting mechanisms move on. And then for the morning, we'll have some cloud cover, but as we get on into the afternoon, we'll have a clearing sky. So even if we do get a little accumulation out there, it's probably going to melt off pretty quickly. How much? Well, we think the models are a little overdone. Probably somewhere around a dusting to a quarter of an inch is possible, although there may be some spots that get a little bit more. And if you do get up around a half inch, that will stick to the roadways and could create a few slick spots tomorrow morning. So the advice is, of course, to look out the window before you head off to work. Let's get a check of our temperatures because we're going to steadily be falling. We've been in the 40s today. We'll drop to nearly freezing early in the morning, eventually landing somewhere in the upper 20s. Guys, tomorrow looks like a very cold day, and of course, we still have rain for the weekend. I'll be talking about all of that when I come back.
All right, Ron. Longtime Evangel University president Dr. Robert Spence has died. This is video taken just last week when Dr. Spence was presented the key to the city of Springfield. He suffered a severe stroke a few days after this, just over the weekend, and passed away this morning. Dr. Spence spent 40 years as president of Evangel University, retiring in 2014. He was a giant of the faith who also served on several boards of directors, including the Chamber of Commerce, Cox Health, and the airport. Public visitation will begin at 1:30 p.m. Sunday in Evangel's Robert Spence Chapel, followed by his funeral service. Dr. Robert Spence was 84 years old. Much more on his legacy tonight on KY3 News at 9 and 10.
A retired Catholic priest living in Springfield is charged tonight with sexually abusing teens. Authorities in Stoddard County, Missouri, say 76-year-old Frederick Lutz sexually abused a boy while working as a priest at St. Joseph Parish in Advance, Missouri. That was 10 years ago. This is a video of Lutz being walked into the Stoddard County Police Station this afternoon. That alleged incident involved a 17-year-old boy in 2000, and a different incident involved another 17-year-old boy in Cape Girardeau County back in the early 70s. Lutz served as a priest in several Missouri communities from the early 70s to late 2000s. We have that list of communities and more details on Lutz's arrest on our website, as well as more on his ties to the Ozarks in the news at 9 and 10. A gas leak closed a Springfield street for a while today. City Utilities says a contractor cut into a natural gas line at Grant and Minota this afternoon. No one had to be evacuated, but Grant was shut down while the line was patched.
Police are getting tired of arresting the same people over and over again, only to see them avoid jail. They blame a Missouri Supreme Court ruling that makes judges look at bail options beyond cash. Andrew Havranek reports tonight how lawmakers are looking at that issue.
The Cleveland County Sheriff David Millsap's deputies have been busy, serving more than 1,100 warrants in the last 8 months.
690 people have failed to appear on their warrants after they've been issued.
That means his deputies are spending more time trying to track people down. It's something his officers didn't have to do before.
I don't have the operational manpower to go down chasing people down that should have probably stayed in jail.
He's not the only sheriff who's having a hard time keeping those who were supposed to be on the other side of this window in jail from easily being back on the streets.
We've arrested one in the morning and then arrested him later on in the afternoon. Same offense.
Sheriffs say it's all because judges must now consider bond options that don't involve money first. Missouri Supreme Court ruled last year many people can't afford bail for low-level offenses and could lose their jobs waiting for trial. Bail bondsmen like Janet Garms feel they're making the situation a little better.
We help people in that we care.
One of Garm's clients was in and out of jail for relatively minor crimes. She's glad to not just be sitting there.
I would probably still be in and out of county jail.
More than 80 lawmakers are pushing to repeal the Supreme Court's ruling. Representative Justin Hill of Kirkwood filed the bill.
I am for criminal reform. However, we've gone too far, or the court has gone too far. And I want to repeal these rules and to have that discussion.
Others, including St. Louis County Democrat Gina Mitten, don't want to see the new rules go anywhere. Her county's courts developed a form that allows a judge to explain their bail decision.
It doesn't say you can't do it. It doesn't say you can't do it anywhere. All that it says is, if you're going to do it, you need to let us know why.
The House Judiciary Committee has not voted on the bill. It is expected to make it to the House floor for debate. Reporting in Jefferson City, Andrew Vranick, KY3 News.
New numbers out show Branson is the third biggest boost in new businesses in more than 20 years. City leaders say big projects like the aquarium there on the boardwalk and WonderWorks being built along the strip contributed to the big boost. City leaders say Branson ended 2019 with a construction value of $122 million. That's the third biggest year in the last 2 decades or so, with 2005 and 2006 coming in first and second. That's when the Branson Landing and Branson Hills were built. The city's planning and development director says those numbers are hard to compare with the so-called theater boom of the early 90s because there aren't very good records from 30 years ago. But he says keeping Branson going has been a priority for the city for decades as the community continually identifies areas in which it can improve in order to draw in more business.
In the 90s, it was the draw of the 60-minute piece and all the wonderful theaters that were established. And then in the mid-2000s, we saw a huge surge from the Branson Landing development, getting more of a shopping attention on the community. And then I think, you know, the city's investments in the Highway 76 corridor and the downtown area piqued people's interest again to reinvest in the community.
Of course, there are ongoing efforts to improve business in Branson, focusing on things that can be challenging, like developing a year-round economy and building a quality workforce.
Voters in Harrison, Arkansas said a resounding no to raising their taxes to pay for a $40 million community center last fall. Even so, city's not stopping. Caitlin Sinnett is live to explain the new strategy.
Ethan, that vote back in November wasn't even close. Now the mayor is going back to the drawing board, quite literally. Now, in order for that community center to be built and maintained, Harrison voters would have had to raise sales taxes by 1%, a 3/4 cent sales tax to build it, and a 1/4 cent sales tax to maintain it. But 63% of voters rejected the 3/4 cent tax. Mayor Jerry Jackson believes the reason it failed was because the price tag was too high and people didn't like where the center would be located. The city brought in U.S. Congressman Steve Womack to get his opinion on how it should go forward. Womack suggested the Harrison Regional Chamber of Commerce survey the community to see what they want, and that's what the chamber plans to do. Then the city plans to reevaluate the idea of a community center.
To hear the congressman's remarks and thoughts about going forward, that's really helpful to us as a broad-based community.
We also need to back up and know exactly what the community wants.
Now, the chamber is expected to do that survey around June, and it would take a couple months to complete it. Reporting in Harrison, I'm Caitlin Sinnett.
You know the headlines: recalled bags of lettuce, kale, spinach, you name it.
Next on your side, how our greens get contaminated, plus those triple washed labels.
Ashley explains what that means and if it really matters.
Well, if you're trying for a healthy diet, you know you're pointed to those leafy greens.
Every time. But while the health benefits of the leafy greens abound, they can also carry contaminants like E. coli and other harmful bacteria. Here's Ashley Reynolds with what you can do about it.
If you think you can't go wrong with leafy greens like lettuce, kale, and spinach, you're mostly right. They've been linked to reduce the risk of heart disease, some cancers, and type 2 diabetes. But behind their star-studded benefits lies risks that can be dangerous. Between 2006 and 2019, greens like romaine, spinach, and bags of spring mix were responsible for at least 46 national outbreaks of E. coli, causing many hospitalizations and even some deaths.
So here's the challenge. We want people to eat these green vegetables, these healthy leafy greens, but they're easily contaminated by bacteria.
Bacteria that come from animal feces can get onto the foods we eat. Many greens, especially romaine lettuce, are grown in California and Arizona. For leafy green farmers, keeping fields free from dangerous bacteria is a challenge.
You're always worried about contamination with animals. If you're growing outside, even just wild birds kind of flying overhead, you have the risk of Salmonella, E. coli.
It's important for farmers to take steps like keeping animals away from fields, sanitizing equipment and boots, and wearing gloves. But even with these precautions, it's still possible for contaminants to end up on the greens. Should you stop eating leafy greens? Consumer Reports says that for most people, the nutritional benefits far outweigh the potential contamination risks. Not everyone who's exposed to Salmonella or E. coli gets sick. But for people who are most vulnerable, that includes pregnant women, older adults, infants, and younger children, and anyone with a compromised immune system, they should carefully consider whether to eat raw greens.
One of the best things you can do is cook it. So cook it to the point where it's wilted.
Now get this, experts at Consumer Reports say do not be fooled by the label saying greens are triple washed. The most thorough washes are designed to remove dirt and grit. They cannot ensure the greens are bacteria free. Now look at your screen right now. If you shop on Amazon, you'll want to know about this text. This is similar to that bogus FedEx text we told you about. That was a few weeks ago. It says urgent alert. It's about your Amazon rewards. Don't click on that link. Just delete it. Crooks are likely trying to gain access to your private information. By the way, you have to sign up to get real text from Amazon. Ethan?
All right, very good. The clouds are building now. They could drop a few flurries overnight.
2 or 3. Here's First Alert Futurecast with what's ahead. Ron has some chilly temperatures, and the day we could get lots of rain.
And now, KY3 First Alert weather.
Well, good evening. We continue to have some light snow in our forecast, so I thought we'd start with radar because we are seeing a few echoes out there. And, of course, if you call up your First Alert weather app, you're going to see those as well. Don't think this is hitting the ground, though. This is what we call virga, so it's actually snowing way up high, but it's evaporating before it actually gets down to the ground. Eventually, though, I think we will start to see some light snow develop out here a little later on tonight that is actually going to come down to the surface, and that'll last for a few hours. Wanted to zoom out because the snow that's actually out in here has been hitting the ground, and then this stuff up in here has been hitting the ground, and you can see how they're both kind of working their way towards the Ozarks. So I think we're going to have to wait for those to eventually move in, and again, it's going to be in a few hours or so. So as we look at Futurecast radar, we go through the evening. We're mostly dry. I think that once we get to 11 o'clock, I think that's when we start to see some snow start to fly out here to the northwest of Springfield. Now, the snow that we're talking about is not really going to be for everybody. I don't think we're going to get down in northern Arkansas. And look, by 4 o'clock in the morning, I think this thing is going to be over with anyway. So, again, we only have a very narrow window in which we could actually get any accumulations at all. Here we are by the early drive time tomorrow, and the snow has come to an end. We still have the cloud cover around. And, in fact, we'll keep the cloud cover around probably through the midday hour, and then after that we'll start to see some clearing. And by the end of the day, we're actually going to be looking at fairly nice conditions. How much snow? Again, we think this is going to be overdone by a lot. I think you can cut this by about 75% or so. We think somewhere between tracing, maybe 1/4 of an inch, or maybe some places they get as much as 1/2 inch of snow. Most of that is probably going to be out here to the northwest. If you do get that much snow, a 1/2 inch, it could stick to the roads and may create a few slick spots. The rest of the area, we think is in pretty good shape, and certainly far southern Missouri and northern Arkansas, we don't think are really going to get anything at all. Now, as we go on into Sunday, this next storm system has been delayed a little bit. So Saturday actually looks like a fairly decent day. We'll have more sunshine, and I think temperatures are going to be nice and warm on Saturday. But by Sunday morning, I think the rain is going to finally move in. So for early church services, I think things are going to be wet. And then just to be honest with you, Sunday's just going to be a cold, wet, windy, nasty day here in the Ozarks. A really good day to stay inside and do indoor activities. As you can see, the rain is going to last into the evening. In fact, it could last overnight, even into Monday morning before the storm system finally moves on to the east. How much rain could fall? Still a little worried about that. There may be some places pick up more than 1 inch, and at this time of year, that could lead to some localized flooding. So that's something that the storm team is going to monitor through time. As far as temperatures, I want to talk about this too, because tomorrow morning, the cold air is going to start to come into the Ozarks. So readings in the upper 20s to nearly freezing are quite likely, but just watch through the course of the day. And folks, we just go absolutely nowhere. We may warm back up into the mid-30s here in southwest Missouri. We may get to nearly 40 in northern Arkansas, but it is going to be a really cold day tomorrow. And in addition to that, the winds are going to be blowing. So when you wake up in the morning, the wind chills are likely to be in the upper teens and low 20s. And unfortunately, it's going to stay in the upper teens and low 20s all day long. In fact, it's going to be pretty cold even in northern Arkansas when you start to factor in that wind. So that leads us to our forecast then for tonight, where we are expecting some light snow across the area. Overnight temperatures 27 to 32. Those winds will be out of the northeast at 10 to 20 miles an hour. Tomorrow, snow goes away early in the day. We get sunshine back for the afternoon. Our high temperatures 36 to 40, but that north wind will make it feel much colder. And then as we look down the road at your first alert 7-day forecast, on Friday, some sunshine. I think it's going to be a little warmer. South wind comes back, so that'll kick us into the mid-40s. I'm now thinking maybe mid-50s by Saturday. And then Sunday, as I said, just a terrible day, 52 maybe for our high. And then next week, especially towards the middle part of the week, a shot of very cold air will return to the area. Guys?
After the break, rest or rust? What Coach Mox thinks about the Lady Bears only playing one game last week.
Plus, the inaugural regional rankings are out for Division II basketball. We'll see if Drury has done enough to earn the top spot next.
Sports with Chad Klein starts now.
Good evening, everybody. This time next month, Division II basketball will be advancing to the Elite Eight round of play. Now, those Drury Lady Panthers hope that they are one of those teams. This afternoon, the women setting the pace to host the opening 3 rounds, landing the #1 spot in the first regional ranking of the year. But on their heels, Ashland University, who has played 5 of these teams for a total of 7 times in the top 10. They are stout. Number 3 and number 4, Grand Valley State and Walsh. They've also got wins over the 6th, 7th, and 8th ranked teams right there. Now, Drury, on the other hand, has wins over 4 of these teams on the list, numbers 6, 8, 9, and 10. But the Lady Panthers also have another 4 wins with teams ranked outside of their region, including Central Missouri, who is the #1 team in the Central. At the Division I level, the Missouri State Bears are on the road and looking for a 4th win in 5 games. They're at Bradley, and with a win can also help them stay out of that play-in round game at the Valley Tournament, which starts in 2 weeks. Lady Bears are on the road, at home for a pair of games this week. Evansville on Friday, Indiana State on Sunday. This is getting back into the routine for the 23rd ranked women, who played only 1 game all of last week, which Coach Mox feels will not hurt that team chemistry.
No concerns at all. I think mentally and physically fresh players are better in February. There's a lot of teams that are just getting run down. Some kids have been playing 30-plus minutes, the whole season. Bodies are starting to break down. So the fresher we can be, the better.
Now on the court this evening, the Evangel Crusaders are at home for a doubleheader with Mid-American Nazarene. We'll have highlights at 9 and 10. Finally tonight, what a week it's been, not just for NASCAR fans, but anyone who's seen this crash at the Daytona 500 on Monday night. Many wondered how bad Ryan Newman was hurt here, or even if he survived that crash. But this afternoon, he walks out of the hospital on his own with his daughters. Now, while he is going home, there's no word on when Newman will be returning to the track. Newman was a leading force on safety improvements in NASCAR in recent history. Amazing science that goes into all of NASCAR, but especially that driver safety.
I love that picture, don't you?
It's amazing. And as a father, it just it really tugs at the heartstrings.
Yeah, it's wonderful. Yeah. We'll be back in a minute with Ron and a First Alert weather update. Wilsons Creek National Battlefield's recruiting volunteers. The park will host a volunteer recruitment and training day Saturday, March 7th from 9 a.m. to 2 p.m.
Yeah, with schools starting to schedule spring trips to the battlefield, volunteers are needed right away. If you can help out, they'd love it. You should know that volunteers have to be at least 16 years old.
Okay, let's check with Ron. Anything changed lately?
Well, not yet. The newer data is going to come in here in a couple of hours, and right now this looks fairly reasonable. That we'll get some light snow develop in parts of the Ozarks tonight. We really don't think there's going to be very much. In fact, when you see the estimates, we're thinking somewhere between a dusting and maybe a 1/4 of an inch. There may be some isolated spots with a 1/2 inch. It'll all be over by the early morning drive time, and then by tomorrow afternoon we're going to be looking at sunshine. So this is a very fast-moving, short-lived event.
Oh, we like that sunshine.
I heard sunshine, yeah.
Stay ahead of the weather with our free First Alert app, right?
That's right. Hope to see you back here at 9 and 10.